This is a story about now or never. About the pain of pushing through the discomfort of the present moment, or the repercussions of shackling yourself to regret for eternity. Trust me, I'll be the first to admit life is messy and complex and largely lived in the gray space. It's a game of nuance and detail, of interpretation. But sometimes, my friends, it's much simpler. Sometimes life comes down to two options: getting it done, or wondering what life could have been if you had the courage to. A few weeks ago, I did some rucking in Sedona with my friends Zach and Adam. And the cool thing about this hike was that, you kind of work your way up the mountain, and then at the top, there's a series of pools you can jump into. It's really refreshing, a nice little reward after a long, hot trek. And so, ultimately, we arrive at our destination. We're setting down our bags, getting ready to jump in. And a group of kids, I'm guessing high school-ish, asked us about the cameras and what we were filming. We introduced ourselves, said we were making a video for YouTube. What kind? They asked. Well, I said the kind that, if we do it right, inspires people to take life up a notch. They smiled, probably only half understanding what I was talking about, and then we went about our separate ways. Until maybe about 20 minutes later, I'm sitting on a rock with Zach and Adam, and I hear a shout from above me. It was one of those kids standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down, trying to convince himself to jump into the water below, just like all his friends had done. And you could tell he was visibly struggling. He called out, "Hey, speaker guy," to which I put two and two together and accepted the role of speaker guy. "What's up?" And he yelled back with kind of a half grin on his face, "Help me, give me a little something here." I look over my shoulder. Zach, who's always one step ahead of me, was smiling, had the camera rolling, and gave me a nod like, "Well, what do you have for him, speaker guy?" Funny enough, I've been in that same spot before. And I know I speak in metaphors sometimes, but this time, I mean literally, I've been in that position. Standing on the edge of a cliff, very similar to that one. Scared to jump in, just like all my friends had done. I even wrote a speech about it, maybe 7 years ago. Fair to say I'd earned that confidence. And so I laughed, I looked up, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially said, it's simple. You can jump now and only feel this way, right? The fear and anxiety for the next 10 seconds or so, or you can turn around, and this moment will live on forever as one of cowardice in your mind. It's a giant almost on your resume. Plus, and this is a giant plus, if you run away, your friends will definitely call you a p. Immediately started counting the guy down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1. 1. 1. And eventually he jumped. And I can't speak for him, obviously, but it was such a relief. It was really awesome to see. It's always great to see someone have a breakthrough. Plus, it felt poetic to help someone in the same position that I'd been in. Not to mention with cameras rolling. It was just a cool moment. A symbolic moment. Because life is somewhat cyclical. In these instances, they don't happen just once. If you're living life right, you find yourself here, at that ledge, again, and again, and again. But the context is often different. The stakes are often higher, the ledge often further up. The decision, though, well, that stays consistent. Do what scares you and grow, or run away and dance with that regret forever. And this This is where I point the finger directly at you, where I plead with you to take a second. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, what ledge are you on right now? What cliff have you been standing on, peering down at the very answers you so desperately need? The journey that's been calling. This is where I ask you to find the courage to jump into that very thing you fear most. Knowing that it's the only thing standing between the life you're living and the life you most want to be living. Perhaps our existence can be summed up as a series of cliffs, a process of calculated leaps into vast unknowns, where you don't even know you've made the right move until you find yourself submerged in the water below, knowing you conquered the demon that was doing everything it could to hold you back. But the demon's everything cannot hold a candle to your everything. Because your everything is determined by, well, you. Your everything goes as far as you choose to take it. Your everything stops when you stop. Your everything climbs as high as you want to ascend. So when you're in that moment, when you're on that ledge looking down at the portal to a new reality, taking in the world of what if, remember, what you feel isn't an indicator that the future is wrong. It is a toll. It makes sure you really want what you say you want. It's the price tag attached to what life could be. So don't let the friction of the present moment diminish a tomorrow with infinite upside. Because life will present to you many cliffs. It will color them with fear and anxiety and what ifs. But one thing pierces the heart of that monster. One word slays that dragon. One word connects your mountaintop to the next. Jump. Hey gang, Eddie here. So I've been building something alongside your world within. It's called AGNS, always grateful, never satisfied. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know exactly what that's referring to. That duality of appreciating the present moment, but also not being afraid to ask the world for more, for diving fully into your potential. And I'd love for you to be a part of this journey as we build and build and build. I have a free newsletter, agnsnewsletter.com, where you'll get daily motivation, monthly challenges, as well as updates on all the exciting things we have coming around the corner. So if you're so inclined and you'd like to be part of this journey, I'd be honored for you to sign up. Link will be below. Look forward to seeing you there. I lost everything. And when you lose everything, God shows you what's real. Those words came from a good friend of mine. A man who walked away from the life he thought he was building, but not because he wanted to. He separated because, well, it all collapsed underneath him. The career that he'd worked so hard on, gone. A lot of the people that he trusted and relied on seemed to disappear. Certainty essentially devolved into chaos. He blinked his eyes and went from successful and on top of the world to homeless and on the streets of New York. Everything he'd built, gone. Everything he thought he knew, shattered. And although that seems like the end of a story, what it was the beginning of one. Because it brought about transformation, not only of his circumstance, but seemingly of his soul, right? This is not about someone just enduring or surviving, but it's like he awoke. eventually seeing through the noise, false perception, through the performative layers that so many of us call life. And a few days ago in Austin, I asked him, hey, how do you walk so freely? How are you so unapologetically yourself, right? You say what you mean to an extent I've never seen. You don't tiptoe. You don't chase approval. How? And this is sitting across the table at breakfast. He's holding his coffee. Says, look, I've already had life take everything away. What's life gonna do? Take it away again? When you've been stripped down to nothing, you realize that most of what you feared losing was never real to begin with. And that really hit me. I don't know that old version of my friend, but I know the version sitting across from me at breakfast now, and I can only imagine what that process, what that pressure cooker felt like. But here's where it gets important for you, because his story is extreme. I'm guessing most people will never face the depth of loss he did. And let's be honest, we shouldn't have to lose everything to find clarity. We shouldn't need devastation to become free. What if we could learn the lesson from his journey without the extent of the tragedy? What if we could simulate that fire without having to burn everything down to ashes? See, that's the difference between waiting and creating. Tragedy forced my friend to wake up. But maybe you don't have to wait for life to burn it down. You can choose discomfort. You can manufacture suffering. You can create situations that challenge your comfort zone, that earn your confidence, that build the clarity he found without the collapse. It's like forging steel, right? You don't wait for the sword to break in battle. No, you temper it beforehand. You introduce it to heat and resilience, pressure, so that when the time comes, you are ready. If you want to grow, jump into the cold water. Say what you mean. Yes, even when it's awkward. Get up earlier than you think you can. Stand your ground when you'd rather nod, smile, and conform. Walk into the gym, the meeting, the room when every part of you wants to shrink or hide. Because the little manufactured battles, they become stepping stones. Each one proving to you that you are more than the voice of fear. Each one turning you into someone new. Talked about a moment recently about a kid standing on a rock ledge high above a lake. Summer day, his friends below already laughing and in the water, but he's shaking, toes curled over the edge, mind racing, his brain like any brain, I'm sure, scanning for disaster. What if I fall wrong? What if I hit something? What if it goes poorly? But standing still is its own prison. And in this situation, perhaps the only prison, right? And so eventually he jumps, and when he comes up for air, breathless, eyes wide, he isn't just relieved, he is alive. He opened himself up to let the light in, becoming something new on the way down. He met a version of himself that hesitation could never reach. And that's the path for all of us. You can wait for the storm, or you can learn to dance in the rain. You can wait for the loss, or you can strip away those things that do not serve you. You can float through life hoping for peace, or you can go to war with your fears and create it. Which brings to mind an old tale from ancient China, where a great philosopher would tell this story about a wealthy man who captures this bird and locks him in a golden cage, but feeds him the rarest, most extravagant seed, the best food, offered it everything it could want, everything except freedom. Day after day, the bird sat still, wings tucked in, People marveled at its beauty, but it never sang. Then one day the cage was left open, and though that bird was weak from confinement, it flew away and never came back. And when asked why the bird would leave a life of luxury, the old man said simply, because to be free and hungry is greater than to be full and imprisoned. Only in the sky could the bird remember who it truly was, and that's what we're talking about, right? You're not here to be admired in a metaphorical cage, to be playing a role in someone else's story. You're not here to be acting out a part prescribed for you. You're here to fly, to live truthfully, to sing your song, even if it shakes the room. Freedom, it doesn't mean chaos necessarily. It means choosing what you give your energy to. It means protecting your time and honoring your energy and chasing what makes you feel alive and unapologetically cutting those things that don't. Because here's the truth. When you lose everything, life cannot take from you what you're willing to rebuild. And when you choose to give things up, the people-pleasing, the lies, the masks, you gain something worth far more. Yourself. We're not here to tiptoe through life. We're here to run through it like we were born to, scraped knees, heart open, unshaken, to jump, to break, to rise again. Not as the same person, but as someone who knows what's real. We know what's possible. We know what's out there. The question is not, does it exist? The question is, will you choose it? The saying goes, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. But wait, they will tell you to aim lower. Not because you can't, but because they didn't. Because the unknown is loud and their fear is even louder. They'll tell you to want less, to shrink your reach, to trade your fire for comfort. They'll ask, why risk falling when you can learn to love the floor? They'll talk about gravity as though it's gospel, as though the pull downward is the only truth that matters. But what they'll never say, what they may never know, is that some are born with the stars in their eyes. Some are built to leap even when there is no net. Some would rather break trying to touch the sky than spend a lifetime kneeling to what is safe. No, you'll feel it. In the quiet moments when no one's watching, when the world is still and the spark returns, that flicker, that impossible thing you're told to put away. And in those moments, you'll wonder, is it foolish to reach? To stretch for something that no one else sees? To climb a ladder that completely disappears into clouds? To follow a path with no name, no trail, and no map? But what they never say is that the map is made by the one who walks. The trail is born of footsteps, not instruction. And the moon, well, maybe that moon was never the prize. Rather, it's the decision, the declaration, the raising of the hand to the sky and saying, I don't know what waits around the corner, but I will go anyway. And as for them, they won't understand that. They won't see the stars you pass through or the galaxies you shaped with every setback. They won't feel the cold of the void you dared to enter, or the warmth of that first light after darkness. To them, you missed. You aimed high and you missed. But what they misunderstand is that you became something in the process. Falling through the stars, it still means you touched them. It still means you left the ground. It still means you learned to fly. See, they'll write stories about people like you without ever realizing they once warned you not to try. Because it's easy to measure life by trophies. It's easy to count only wins. When truth be told, meaning is found in motion, in becoming, in reaching beyond what was and towards the infinite upside. And no medal can capture that. No applause can echo long enough to match the silence you broke just by beginning. You'll lose people. You'll shed skin. You'll bury old versions of yourself that begged you to stay. But with each step, you'll remember the moon was never promised, only the journey. So keep climbing. Even when they laugh, even when they don't get it, even when they turn away, even when the night offers no light back, climb. Because what they call failure, you'll know as transformation. What they label detour, you'll see as design. And one day, and that day will arrive, they'll look up. They'll see a light shooting across the night sky that they cannot explain. They'll call it lucky, they'll call it magic, they'll call it miraculous, but you'll know. You'll know there was nothing miraculous about it. It was the fire in your lungs. The shaking hands that still reached out, the tired feet that didn't quit, the dream you protected when the world told you to let go. So when they tell you to aim lower, smile. Let them. Because they never saw the stars you were dancing through. This is a story about doing that thing in your soul that you know you're called to do. There's a quote by Carl Jung. He says, "You meet your destiny on the road you take to avoid it." And the first time I heard that, I paused. Not because it was poetic, but because just like when anything meaningful hits you, it feels personal, like it was written for me. Describing chapters of my life that I hadn't quite closed. Here's a little pretext, about the way I once looked at the world. I used to think life could be outmaneuvered. That if I planned enough or calculated enough, if I stayed sharp enough, I could avoid the chaos. I could dodge pain. If I planned just right, I'd be able to skip all the hard parts. I used to think discipline and direction meant full control. But in so many contexts, they just bring about delay. Because what I feared never seemed to vanish when I ran from it. It would simply wait. It would follow. And eventually it would reintroduce itself. Not necessarily as a punishment, but as a mirror of sorts, calling for reflection. And here's the thing, we don't get to negotiate with the path. We either walk it or get dragged through it, because it always finds us. That's what destiny does. Now, don't mistake that for powerlessness. This doesn't imply that you don't have a say. In fact, you have more control than you can even imagine. The question is not whether the road exists. It does. The choice is in how you choose to meet it. You can lean in with open eyes and steady feet, or you can resist, delay, deny, until life in its relentless wisdom brings you back around. One path is painful, the other still hard, but builds you, right? One is friction, the other is fire, transforming you into something more. Destiny doesn't punish you, it just refuses to let you stay small. There's a story within a story here. When I was in the corporate world, I talk about the value that I got from that time in my life. I was fresh out of college, full of ambition. I was obsessed with the next title. I thought that success was about rising fast, about being seen, the role, the status, the corner office. Right? And there was, at the time, a VP that I worked under, and she used to tell me, Eddie, I see you being exceptional in learning and development. You have a gift for, helping people understand, see value, helping them grow. And at the time, I just did not want to hear it. I was so reluctant to agree, dismissed it. Not because I didn't respect her, she was a superstar of a human being, but because I had tunnel vision. Learning and development, that sounded soft, it sounded slow. I wanted to manage, to lead, right? To move widgets and metrics and, oversee a region of the country. Who cares about personal growth? Which, fate got the last laugh there. I ran, at least to the extent that I could, eventually left the industry. And wouldn't you know it, right? Years later, building my own brand, right? Leading a team of amazing people who, we all have the same mission of helping people grow and, make the most of their lives. It's not kind of what she suggested my skill set and value add was. It's exactly that. And I knew it because it felt good when I did it. I enjoyed it. But the ego said, no, you need to be managing the Northwest division, whatever it was. Managing operations. It's not where I was meant to be, right? It was meant to help people grow and teach and build and inspire. I didn't choose that path back then, but it chose me, and maybe it chose me before birth, right? Eventually, I found the courage to circle back to it. Just like Jung said, I met my destiny on the road I took to avoid it. That resistance, that detour, well, as you can imagine, it wasn't just my story, it's everyone's story. There's a pattern in every great myth, every story of transformation. It's called the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell mapped it out. And the hero begins in a very ordinary world, safe, predictable, familiar. He's incentivized by the things that most people in his world are incentivized by. His limitations are certainly worldly. Then comes the call to adventure, a challenge, a whisper, a truth that you can't ignore. But what happens next? Well, almost every time the hero refuses the call. For those Star Wars fans out there, Luke Skywalker, he didn't want to leave home, right? As a farmer on Tatooine. He wasn't ready to face the evil empire. He doubted himself. He resisted. He wanted more of what he knew. And the story of Jonah is similar. Someone mentioned this to me the other day. I don't know how many times Luke Skywalker and the story of Jonah are used in the same example, but first for everything. God asks him to go to Nineveh to speak, to change hearts. He says no. He gets in a ship and he goes in the other direction. But fate didn't take kindly to shortcuts. A storm came. The ship shook, and Jonah, amidst all this, was thrown overboard. He was swallowed whole by a great fish, alone in darkness, nowhere left to run. And that's where he met his truth. That's where he surrendered to his life's purpose, his mission. That's where the journey for him truly began. See, destiny does not ask us if we're ready. It simply arrives. And when we resist, we often find ourselves in the belly of our own fear until we realize the only way out, as Robert Frost suggests, is through. Jonah eventually got it. Luke Skywalker eventually got it. And eventually, so do we. Because the refusal doesn't stop the story. It merely delays a transformation, your transformation. And the Stoics, they knew this as well. They spoke on it, wrote about it all the time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Seneca said, fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. More or less, for the sake of our conversation, meaning you can run, you can hide behind logic, busyness, perfectionism. But destiny is not looking for your comfort. It's waiting for your commitment to step into that purpose, into that person you've known your whole life has been there waiting to be unveiled to the world. I look back now and laugh at how hard I tried to outpace my own purpose. But I needed to learn that avoidance, it doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you small. It keeps you playing in someone else's game, a spectator in someone else's arena, instead of thriving and becoming a superstar in your own, adding more value to the world and those around you than you can imagine. Your destiny, it's a lot of things, but it's never small. So I ask you, what have you been avoiding? What's the path that quietly calls your name? The one that feels right, but maybe demands of you a little more right now than you're willing to give. One that you say maybe later to every time the thought arises. Because it's waiting. And maybe it's not supposed to be easy. Maybe you're never going to feel ready. Maybe that discomfort is the signal, not a stop sign, but a sign to go. And embracing that is how you win. It's how you find peace. Not by dodging the road, but trusting it. Because when you finally step into that discomfort, when you answer the call you've been avoiding, you don't just find your destiny. You become it. Be you always. And you might hear that and think, well, that's obvious. That's simple. That's easy. Not if the world has something to say about it. In fact, Emerson is quoted as saying, to be yourself in a world that's constantly trying to make you someone else is the greatest accomplishment. It's not always obvious, but rather the subtle erosion of ourselves. perhaps not intentionally deciding to wear a mask, just never taking the time to examine the reflection in the mirror and ask the right questions. Losing our intentionality means we end up wherever the wind blows us. And that could very well be a destination we aren't too happy with. Now, this next part will seem a little trivial and insignificant. But bear with me, right? Because sometimes the most important lessons are small, but they become a portal or a gateway to understand the bigger things, right? So for me, this started with a black t-shirt. Walking into a group meeting with some amazing people from all over the country and world doing different things and helping people in various ways. And all of them, as I entered the conference room, happened to be wearing business casual. Which is great, except I haven't worn a collar in a pretty long time. I've been doing my podcast, recording videos, building my businesses in a black t-shirt. And so that's how I walked into the room. And I found it interesting that almost immediately this self-talk emerged. It's like, you stand out right now. They're gonna think less of you. Is this disrespectful? Is this showing that perhaps I don't care, right? All of these things. And so I left that day and I sat with the thoughts. They bothered me, so I wanted to spend some time with them. And here's where I landed, taking those same points one by one. Number one, if they think less of me for being me, then that would be on them and not me, right? I'd gladly fight that uphill battle to earn people's respect in my authenticity. Number two, it's not disrespectful because I am happy to be there, proud to be there. I do take pride in my appearance. I just do it in my way. And number three, be you always, right? How you show up is what matters. Having the courage to live in a way that aligns with who you are and what's important to you. And why do I say this? Because if we can grasp this idea with something as trivial and as small as a black t-shirt in a conference room, perhaps we can then push it into other areas of life. The bigger things, the more important things. Like, who's in that room to begin with, right? Who are we surrounding ourselves with? How do we spend our time? Right? There's two ingredients to this recipe. One, who am I / what matters? And two, how can I position myself so that is the arena I'm operating in? Sometimes we don't do it because we're scared, but sometimes we don't do it because we never ask the right questions. When you can find and hold your authenticity, you feel it, and so will others. The question transforms from how can I blend in and not disrupt to how can I use the abundance that surrounds me to live a life that's meaningful? There's a lot of us metaphorically walking around in collared shirts when they're not what we're meant to be wearing, right? A lot of us asking, how do I not screw this up? Instead of asking, how do I go get what's mine and do it in a way that matters to me? Be you always. And the closer you are to that, the more powerful you will be. It means understanding who in your life adds to that and who in your life detracts from it. It means looking around and asking, am I doing this for me or for others? It's that old airplane mantra. You have to put your mask on first before assisting others, or no one gets saved. No one gets the value. In a way, life is a beautiful pursuit of simplicity, of really distilling your world down to what matters and pushing away the rest. Because like moths to a flame, the complexity and unnecessary minutia finds us. It latches on and becomes what we carry around. I better not let go, says the lizard brain. This is how things are supposed to be. This is what everyone is doing. But when you find that clarity, truly capture it, yeah, you earn the respect of others around you in that metaphorical conference room, but most importantly, you earn your own respect. You, to a greater extent, appreciate that face staring back at you in the mirror. Right? Think about it this way. They do not build statues for those who blended in the best, who conformed. Right? No, we build statues for those who had the courage to live in their authenticity, to do things their way. Because we understand how unique, how powerful, how difficult that is. Be you always. There's nothing more powerful than that. Simple truth. You don't need to get it right the first time. You don't. You don't even need to be close. You just can't do nothing. You need to convince your feet to start moving. You need to generate momentum for some type of outcome. Because what that data, what that outcome will tell you is yes, keep doing more of that thing, or no, reel it in and try something different. But either way, progress is reliant upon that information. Going equals solutions. Staying equals hoping, wishing, lost opportunity. Every journey is a long, winding road. It's comprised of wrong turns and dead ends. There will be maintenance required, issues to be resolved, and narratives to be rewritten. None of which, by the way, is beyond you. So long as you take these things as they arrive, one by one, you open up your world to allow them in. And you might look at where you want to be and think, that's a lot, right? That's a world away. No. It's a few tiny decisions away, repeated daily. There's a Greek proverb that suggests beginning is half the battle. Why? Well, because convincing yourself you're capable is not easy. Trusting yourself completely hurts. But it's not until we come around and greenlight the process, it's not until we give ourselves permission that life begins. How beautiful is the fact that we don't have to have all the answers, not even close. We just need enough courage to step out into the storm, to brave the wind and the rain. I frequently allude to this transformation, right? The first time I spoke in front of an audience, I was terrified. The first few times, actually. Then after showing up, getting reps in, and reflecting, I realized, okay, I've earned a bit of confidence here. I continue to go, to speak, more reps. Okay, now we're getting comfortable with this. I'm not up all night the night before, rehearsing, pacing in hotel rooms. I had a little more trust in my ability. I continue, more reps. Okay, now I kind of enjoy this. I've broken through. More reps. Now there's enough comfortability where I can look at what's in front of me and start asking, well, now, how do I refine this to stand out? How do I make this so valuable that it becomes the 1% of the 1% of the 1%? I've worked hard for my baseline. I feel good. Now, how do I chisel away the little elements of mediocrity sprinkled in there? How do I pull them out one piece at a time? It is a testament to going, to allowing yourself to experience life and data points and ups and downs, all that help you refine the process. They are the journey. Can you do all that overnight? No, absolutely not. But you can always meet yourself where you are and win that battle. You can always become a little bit stronger, setting the stage for the next level and the next and the next. In fact, when you're in it, it feels so intuitive that you don't even realize what you're doing. One battle at a time. You're just stepping on the stone in front of you. Think about it. You don't defeat a storm. You simply navigate through each gust of wind and every drop of rain. You pick apart and outlast the pieces that make up the storm, and you are capable of that. You're made for that. Again, when you give yourself permission to enter the arena that is adversity, that is the unknown, success is oddly intuitive. It just kind of appears in front of you, one obstacle at a time, or one opportunity at a time, depending on how you're looking at it. The problem is that too many of us stay on the sidelines. I think you know this, right? And when you wrap your mind around the fact that stagnation is the only adversary, you become free. You unlock what you could be and always should have been. I mean, how brilliant the mind, that incomprehensible network behind your eyes, capable of both putting a man into orbit and navigating the depths of the vast oceans that surround us. It is, in and of itself, a miracle. But what if I was audacious enough to suggest temporarily taking that miracle, that masterpiece, that network behind your eyes, and shutting it off? For a moment, hitting pause on the defense mechanisms, actively painting what-ifs and worst-case scenarios, begging you to play small and seemingly always prioritizing safety over meaning. What if I made the case that the best thing you could possibly do is start now and ask questions later? Begin the journey, start the ride, immerse yourself in the river's current. And sure, you don't know where you'll end up, but it won't be where you currently stand. And that new you contains wisdom. It contains that accrued data to improve upon. It contains the 2.0. And so the key now and forever is not to expect all the answers before you step foot out the door. It's not to be sure everything will fall into place. It's simply to have the courage to move into the great unknown without any reassurances. It's you, your belief in yourself, and variables unknown. You don't have to get it right the first time. You just can't do nothing. There's a voice that follows us through life. Sometimes loud, sometimes barely a whisper, but always there. Telling us to stay small, to play safe, to know your place. For a while, we listen. We listen because to stand tall is to risk being seen. To take a swing is to risk missing. To dream is to risk heartbreak. And so we do the logical thing. We shrink. Tuck away our ambitions. Lower our eyes. Learn to merely survive. But hidden underneath the noise of the world, buried beneath layers of doubt and fear, sleeps a giant. A force so immense it could change everything. It is a giant waiting for you to remember. When I was young, I believed the world was mine. And get this, I didn't have a resume. I didn't have experience. What I had was a heart full of fire and a mind that saw zero limitation. I'd stand in front of the mirror and imagine a future NBA player or rock star, movie producer, climbing mountains, sailing oceans, but by default, subtly, life whispered, "Come on now, be realistic. Tone it down, stay in line." And piece by piece, I traded wonder for compliance. I traded dreams for routines. I traded what my heart wanted for society's instruction manual. I thought perhaps that fire was gone as I made my way into the world, but that giant doesn't die. It sleeps. See, the giant inside you is not made of what you do. It's made of who you are. It's the book you've never written, but you still dream about. The business you imagine when no one's around. It's the conversations you rehearse in your mind, but don't say out loud. The mountains you stare at in awe, wondering, could I? That giant is the real you, unshackled by fear. It's that song you've never sung, but still your soul knows every word. There's a myth we tell ourselves that our greatest days are behind us, that our magic is somehow lost. But the truth is that it's all still there, waiting. Because the giant inside you does not leave. It doesn't retire. Certainly doesn't forget. It waits. Patiently. Quietly. Until one day we hear its call. For me, it came on a day just like any other day. Nothing spectacular. It's never anything spectacular. It's not cinematic or profound. Just a small moment. A reflection. A realization that I was living half alive. Playing it safe while my life, was slipping by. And in that quiet heartbreak, something shifted. And I need you to understand, I need this to sink in. It was not a battle cry, it was a whisper. Hey, maybe there's more here. And sometimes that's all you need. The first crack in the wall, the first light through darkness, the first step towards waking the giant inside you. When the giant stirs, the world changes. You start moving differently, speaking differently, choosing differently. You no longer ask for permission. You no longer seek validation. You no longer apologize for wanting more. It is your right. You realize you were never meant to live small. You were never meant to fit in. No, you were here to build and dream and climb and dance and shout your truth into the heavens with a voice so loud that the very mountains echo it back. You were made to live. Because the truth is, you're not broken. And as hard as this feels, you are not lost, you are not late, you are simply asleep. But that giant is stirring, and if you put your hand over your chest, you can feel it. The world needs you awake. So today I ask you, what would happen if you answered the call? What would happen if you trusted the fire inside you even when the world told you not to? What would happen if you stopped shrinking and started standing? Because the world does not need another shadow. It needs you. It needs you alive and awake and unapologetically yourself. When fear says stay small, awaken that giant. When doubt says be quiet, let your giant speak. When life says, hey, know your place, let your giant break the walls down. There is a giant within you, and it's time to wake up. The world is waiting. A tree grows, not because it wants to, but because it was created to. It's a story about potential, right? And about a decade ago, right when I started writing, speaking, creating content online, I came across that message, and it was transformative for me, right? The idea that human beings are the only life form that will do less than they possibly can. The full quote by, no surprise, Jim Rohn, he says, every life form seems to strive to its maximum, except human beings. How tall will a tree grow? As tall as it possibly can. Human beings, on the other hand, have been given the dignity of choice. You can choose to be all, or you can choose to be less. So why not stretch up to the full measure of the challenge and see what you can do? Beautifully said. Right? Imagine every night of your life going to bed knowing that there was more inside of you. Imagine running a race knowing there were other levels that you could have reached for, but didn't. Imagine looking back on a life of infinite possibility and knowing you created finite parameters. Now, I'm not saying you have to live every waking moment obsessed with always being better than you currently are, right? I'm merely asking you a question. Aren't you curious? Don't you want to know what that ceiling is, that space for which excellence has been reserved? I often think every time I hop on a rowing machine at the gym that, it highlights the gap in black and white between what I'm doing and what I'm capable of. Love-hate relationship with that machine. It brings me back to my college days, the days I first learned to truly push myself. I get on it now for 1-minute sprints as part of a sort of a workout program I'm doing. And I just think there's no evading that concrete number the screen gives me. Exactly how many meters I went in 60 seconds. Right there, right in front of me. And then I ask, imagine if the stakes were higher. Imagine if this wasn't just a workout. Imagine if someone said, on sprint number 4, Eddie, if this is not your fastest sprint of the day, you lose X. Or Y is going to happen to you. Whatever those variables may be. Eddie, if this isn't your fastest sprint, insert worst fear. What's going to happen? I'm going to break that record. I just am. My body is going to find a way. And that's what's interesting. That's the point. Okay. What this metaphor is not an indicator that you need to go around scaring yourself into personal bests. But what it is a reminder that there's always more right there, right in front of you, if you want it. It's a pointing out that we all live somewhere under what our best could be. And knowing that is such a powerful tool. It's powerful because there's no screen showing you the meters you traveled when it comes to where you are with your work, or your health, or your relationships. There are indicators, sure, but so much goes unmeasured. How much did you do today? Did you feel good about your output? How good? Because there's always another level. And maybe the solution is more. Maybe the solution is an audit of time spent. Maybe it's adjusting your compass altogether, but there exists a best in you that is untapped, always. And the question remains, aren't you curious? Aren't you curious what that next level looks like? That should make you feel good. Because your current circumstance is as permanent as today's weather. What you don't like can be changed. What isn't aligned can be adjusted. If it's not good enough, you can make it so. One of my favorite ideas, life is a game of adjustments. The question's how far are you willing to push, to grow? Keyword, willing. Some people decide to stop at point A. Others stop at point B. Others, point C. And that's for them to decide. That's a decision, a personal decision they've made. But the $1 million piece of knowledge is that in all cases, that landing spot was a decision. It was not fate. It was not handed out by a stranger on the street. You choose how hard to pull, and you decide which levers are worth pulling. See, we are the only living beings capable of underperforming. And that's amazing. Take that, run with that, because it also means we are the only living creatures capable of rationally looking around, assessing the situation, and saying, I don't like this reality. I'm going to rebuild my own. The world is yours. You just have to decide which world you are willing to accept. Which world are you willing to fight for? Which world are you going to call your own? There are moments in life that feel like endings. But what if they're simply the next version of you? A question that brings me right to the present moment. It's funny how something so small can undo something so sacred. This time, it's something as arbitrary as back spasms. A sharp pain when I breathe in that kind of moves different places in my upper left back to my lat shoulder. And at first it was, kind of an afterthought. It was like, okay, it'll heal. I'll be fine in a few days. After all, part of getting older and lifting is working around these things. You're never 100% perfect. But it's been almost 3 weeks now. And instead of healing, it's getting worse, right? It hurts to sleep, hurts to breathe. Even thinking about a pull-up feels like betrayal. And here's the part worth examining. I didn't think it would hit this hard. But, here I am, canceling workouts with friends. Texting, hey, sorry man, gotta skip today. That Murph workout I was so pumped to do, that ritual of strength and struggle, shared with people I respect, gone, postponed. Forgotten by everyone except me. And this isn't just me whining, by the way. Like, I'm getting to the point here. I feel less anchored because for me, movement isn't just fitness. It's clarity, it's identity. It's the thread that really weaves the rest of my life together. And without it, apparently, that thread has started to unravel. My wake time shifted a little bit. Don't have to get up early to hit the fasted cardio, right? So morning structure softens. And you get the idea, that domino effect. Kind of stop tracking meals. Skipping the cold plunge a few times turns into a few more. Opening Instagram instead of the notebook. And the part of me that would roar forward with focus and fire, well, he's just a little quieter now. And I think that's the moment where the wolves come. Not suddenly, at least not in this case, not dramatically, but gradually until they're everywhere. Until you look around and go, whoa. One sits on my shoulder whispering, "You're losing it." Another paces in front of me. Momentum's gone, you'll never get it back. One hides behind false logic, right? Maybe this is just who you are now. Maybe it's easier to accept that. And the cruelest one of all, he just watches, says nothing, because he knows that I know. The context here is, for the first time in a long time, I'd finally felt healthy, like I'd mitigated and sort of removed myself from a lot of these things I've dealt with over the years. And that's what's been interesting to watch, right? That subtle erosion of self-belief, that part of me that's always said, dude, you've been here before, you'll get through this. Sometimes when you're just down and out, it feels hard to hear. But here's the inflection point, and I love to share these inflection points. This morning I sat alone on my balcony and I asked the question that matters most. You don't like the person you're becoming, the trajectory, you've taken in a very short period of time. It's like, do I let this moment consume me, or do I become something new? Do I let it be a new evolution? Because this is no different than any other challenge in life. It feels big and personal and complex because, it's what's right in front of me now. But in reality, it's just another obstacle. Pain has a way of asking you who you really are. Not when everything's working. Not when you're strong, but when you're broken. When the routines fall apart. When your identity starts to slip through your fingers. And the wolves, they are not the enemy. They're the test. In a way, they are the invitation. A hand extended. And so this morning, I gifted myself the decision. Not to sprint, obviously. Not to lift, can't do that. But to face that circle of wolves with grace. To stop hoping they go away. And to meet their gaze and answer them. Yes, I'm in some mental duress, right? Poor me, life goes on. Yes, I'm losing momentum. Yes, in a way, holding off regression, but I'm still here. Blood in my veins, air in my lungs. And gonna rebuild from the inside out. Again, it's not like I just found out I'll never walk again, right? Perspective here. Because the wolf isn't some fantasy of me at my peak. It's who's already inside, who I become when everything's stripped away. When normalcy and routine and comfort are taken, who do you become? So if you feel them too, right? Those doubts, those whispers, if your momentum has been slowed, if your identity feels like it's dissolving, this is your moment. Not to run or hide, but to rise. To not lay down, shake your fist at the world and become the sheep, but to meet the wolves where they are. Life isn't about staying strong when it's easy. It's about becoming stronger when every part of you wants to disappear, when you're frustrated and annoyed, and all you see is off-ramps. Your North Star is covered up by clouds. That's when it matters. When the wolves circle, you become one. It's in your lowest moments, when quitting feels the easiest, when retreating or surrender feels the most intuitive. that life asks the most of you. That's when you want to hide, to point fingers, to collapse, blame, and fear the wolves. But maybe that's when you're meant to become one. Life is admittedly a game of nuance and complexity. There's no one-size-fits-all roadmap here. But sometimes, to distill our most important crossroads into their simplest form sheds light on the road ahead. It helps us better understand what lies before us. After all, we don't lose ourselves because we misread the little complexities, because we got lost on the details. No, we lose ourselves when we're unable to see the most basic, simple, and seemingly obvious things. And so, let's take an axe to this tree. Let's break the complex down. Let's examine our darkest moments, our most challenging trials, when we hurt the most, when life brings us to our knees, when we feel the wolves circling. After all, that's when we're most inclined to become the sheep. It's easier to shrink, to blame the seemingly bloodthirsty beasts waiting for their chance to take everything you have left. Drawn in by your momentary weakness, they know this is the invitation they've longed for, free dining at your expense. Oh, how every instinct in these moments resonates with being the victim. How intuitive, right, to lay down and want to shake your fist at the world. But what if? What if these moments called you to do one thing? Not bow down to the universe and loathe the wolf, not fear the sharp teeth, nor the glowing eyes piercing through the night, but rather find it within yourself to rise up and become one. What if it wasn't a threat? No, not at all. What if it was an invitation, a whisper? Hey, you know that part of you buried deep down? That beast in slumber, the one who's been dormant for perhaps too long? The one who doesn't take no for an answer? Who sees the world not as a collection of steel bars restricting their every move, but a playground? One who expects turbulence, who sees the obstacles not as a problem, but as a reminder that you are right where you need to be. That lives inside you, with all its strength and courage, all its fight and resolve. When you feel the wolves circle, don't collapse into that part of you treading water on the surface. Dig deep. Descend to the depths of yourself and reemerge as one of them. Fight fire with fire. See, sometimes life calls on you to take shelter. This is not one of those times. Step out into the world, into the storm, into hell, and carve something beautiful into the chaos. Will it be easy? No, of course not. That's the whole thing. When we're in pain, anything but surrender is counterintuitive. But that's why the ascent is transformational. Start with the premise that it's not a matter of if the wolf inside of you exists. It's whether you can collect yourself and choose to be him over the sheep. Can you tolerate the sharp pain of transformation in exchange for the slow, dull, chipping ache of surrender? When the wolves circle, And if they aren't now, my friend, they will. A life fully lived is never void of them. Accept the call to transcend life as it's currently lived. Let the sharp teeth be a reminder that you can cut through the haze of doubt. Let the eyes be a reminder that you can see through the now and visualize the ideal. Let the howls be a reminder that your soul cries out for more. That their moon is in fact your moon, and what's available to them can belong to you. When you want most to accept the role as sheep, when you want most to lay down to tip your cap and call it a day, that is your moment. To not just endure, but to dig deep. To step outside yourself. To find light in darkness, to become the way, and to be more than you have ever been. Silence is loud. Places I never went, the action I never took, things I didn't say, they still ring in my ears. They echo across time, but not in the way you might think. See, they arrive and fall before me at my feet, not as regret, but as a reminder that life isn't over. They appear, rather, as an invitation to transcend past limitation and step into that ever-elusive idea we often refer to as what can be. Do you remember that feeling being a kid, let's say second grade? Put yourself in a desk, looking up to the front of the classroom. Teacher asks a question, and you know the answer. Well, at least you're pretty sure you know. But there's a seed of doubt. What if it misses the mark? What if it's not quite there? You mull it over and ultimately keep your hands in your pockets and your head down, only for someone else to raise their hand. The teacher chooses them, they answer the question. They give the same answer you were going to give. Not only correct, but wow, excellent, nailed it. That was a tough one, too. Round of applause. Good job, Student X. Student X, with possessing both the right answer and the courage to be wrong, if that's the result fate were to cast upon him. And the thought, it replays in your mind. It's like, I was going to say that. I knew that. And then suddenly there's a shift. Student X's response gets quieter and quieter. It fades into the background. What was said is no longer relevant. All you can hear now are the jarring, droning echoes dispersed from the abyss your nothingness created. Your silence screams so loud that it penetrates every ounce of your being. The question, it was trivial. The response didn't matter. It was never about that, was it? It was, rather, a microcosm of the crossroads we face in life over and over again, way beyond second grade. The question, do we act and risk the fall in exchange for the mountaintop, or do we pause, hesitate, and invite into our worlds a silence so excruciating it cannot be outrun? A silence that covers every corner of your reality, a silence that moves where you move and goes where you go. It lives until you find the courage to speak. Every once in a while, It's beyond valuable to be reminded that life is finite. It doesn't seem like it right now. It doesn't seem like it from your desk or out the car window as you drive your kids to school. It doesn't seem like it in traffic. It doesn't seem like it in the weight room by yourself or putting your thoughts to paper at the kitchen table before the rest of the world wakes up. But none of this, my friends, is here to stay. It all goes, every single thing. And so here's the switch I'm advocating be made. In soccer and in hockey, when a team's losing by one very late in the second half or third period, they often pull the goalie, leaving their own net wide open. How vulnerable. But in doing so, they simultaneously increase their odds to score because the goalie now acts as another attacker. Again, it is a gamble for sure. But down by one, when time is running out, who cares? It gives you a chance. And I don't see how life is any different. We're all here for a length of time that equates to a blink of an eye. We are a raindrop in a thunderstorm. The siren is about to sound. The whistle is about to blow. In a million years, why would you not pull the goalie? Why would you sit there in a self-created silence wondering what life could have looked like if only you gave more? This is the one and only opportunity to pour all of yourself into something before something becomes nothing and the march of time leaves you in the rear view. Yeah, maybe you win and maybe you don't. But the ticking clocks, they're playing a different game altogether, and to win yours, you must understand theirs. Silence is louder than a swing and a miss. It's louder than a courageous soul who misjudges an approach and smashes into the ground. It's louder than the lessons life graciously hands out to those willing to step into the belly of the beast. Silence is loud. So go scream your truth unto the world. Go make your mark. No, not for vanity, but because of the same question previously alluded to. Why not? As far as I'm concerned, odds don't dictate reality as much as they shape perspective. You shouldn't be here. The statistical likelihood is just too small. Your existence has attached to it almost impossible odds, yet here you are. And you have the audacity, given this info, to sit there in silence. You're delusional, selfish, wasteful enough to not go, to not try, to not unpack the gift at your feet and make your way into the world. My friend, your silence screams. So go. Leave in your wake a trail of courage that screams louder. Leave behind you a message to the world that you weren't given much time. No, not much time at all. But you were given enough time. Your snapshot in the movie of eternity, your verse in the great play of life, your chapter in the book of existence, it will read like the miracle that it is. Oh, miracle. That's a big word. That's a lot of pressure. But no, it's not about the magnitude of your decision making. It's about walking through those little doors in life that terrify you. It's about saying yes to those opportunities that put knots in your stomach and cause your hands to shake. It's about sharing your voice, delivering your thoughts, even when you don't know how they'll be received. It's walking the path you know in your soul you need to be walking. The silence is deafening. So speak into that void, make something you can call your own, chip away at the marble until what's precious remains. So be louder than the dissenting voices. Be louder than the ticking clocks. Be louder than the setting sun. Be so loud that even if, for a brief, single moment in time, the world knew you were here. It took 16 days to realize how precious life truly is. There's a book called The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And the book asks this question: are you looking over your shoulder and measuring how far you've come? Or are you only consumed by how far you have to go? The distance between where you are and your destination. Are you living in the abundance that surrounds you, or in the scarcity the mind seems to constantly be attempting to trick us into believing? Right. This idea was first made known to me during a drive one day. I was on the phone with my friend Tom, who happened to have read the book. And I was pulling into my garage, and the gate wouldn't open to the parking garage. And so I'm sitting there, speakerphone on, and I'm just throwing a tantrum, right? I'm in the car screaming about how ridiculous it is that the gate won't open when I need it to. You know, it's not rocket science. How is it hard? The thing should open when you press the button. And, then remembering I was on the phone, kind of sat there for a second in silence. And after the momentary pause, Tom's voice comes through the speakers in the car. You know, his usual calm Southern accent goes, "Eddie, are you living in the gap or the gain right now?" It was a light bulb moment, right? It's a gate we're talking about, the slightest inconvenience. Not an intrusion to my health, my family, my friends, my business. The ability to live how I want to live in a country that provides the freedom to do that. It wasn't about the food I would soon eat or the water I had access to. Nope, none of that. It was a gate, a slow to open gate. And I love the idea, the perspective to stop, to look around and ask the question, how serious is this quote unquote problem? Have I slipped back into the gap in life? Forgetting about how far I've come, how much I've done, totally omitting the fact that 8 years ago, I would have given anything to be living on the other side of that gate like I do now, right? Your perspective seems to be the first thing to go, right? It requires that constant awareness and attention. And I would use this idea every once in a while on and off, right? When I could remember the gain versus the gap, attempting to cling to that perspective when possible. But the idea didn't fully reemerge in any meaningful way until almost a year later. That same friend, Tom, convinced me to join this mastermind. And, I'm in my first session, sitting in the room. It was led by an amazing guy by the name of Ben. And Ben made it known to us that day that something tragic had happened in his family. His newly born son, Ben Jr., had passed away at only 16 days old, right after battling an illness. And he's telling this story, obviously shaken, still saddened. These things never truly leave you. And what he said changed my life, rocked me at my core.
he looked at the room and he said how grateful he was for those 16 days. That they were perhaps the most important 16 days of his life, that he learned more about himself in those 16 days than the rest of his life combined. That the love he got to share, the time he spent, the miracle of being with his son, he wouldn't trade that for the world. It was as much a part of him now as the air he was breathing in those 16 days were, in their own unique way, perfection. And see, we're all, sitting there looking on, thinking, this is someone who's become a friend over the past couple months, right? We are a group, we've spent time together, and it's like, well, how can we help? How can we assist? There's suffering here. What can we do? And obviously, the sentiment there is correct. Everyone's heart was in the right place. But I think what Ben reminded us in an incredibly moving, powerful way is that our toughest tests, our most difficult battles, sometimes our most painful experiences, there's beauty wrapped under those things. Sometimes the things that mean the most are disguised as our toughest tests, our battles. The courage and strength he demonstrated not only to share the story, but to use it to propel himself, his family, and the world around him brought tears to my eyes. It brought that gift of perspective, right? And certainly I don't want to speak for him, but he took what I'd assume is the most challenging 16 days of his life and allowed it to blossom into the miracle it was meant to be, which I can't imagine was easy. In fact, I can see a world where many people aren't able to do what Ben did or find that perspective that Ben found, not without the required growth and poise, not without, learning that gate outside the parking garage doesn't hold a candle to what's actually important. Things don't go the way we draw them up in life. Not always. Life is confusing and chaotic. It's unpredictable. Sometimes it leaves us with nothing more than a moment to look up and ask why. But if you're able to pause and seek out those answers, if you're able to step out of the gap and into the gain, if you're able to accept the beauty that life is trying to offer you, it's always there. And I hope personally to take Ben and Ben Jr.'s strength, courage, and live my life by their example, to immerse myself into life's abundance and share as much of it as I can with the world. And I encourage you to join me on the journey. Life is a miracle. Let's make the decision to see it that way.